Hello, people, and welcome to Heir. An old house, a stormy February night. A dying old man must choose who will be his heir, for not only his life is at stake. A short chamber story about family issues. This is a visual novel, by the way. Oh, sorry. Shimon took a deep breath and to shout again, but then he heard hurried footsteps at the door. Took you bloody long enough. I got here as fast as I could. There's so much junk in the storeroom, and the light bulb's blown out. It's not that easy to find something in there. And you'd better not shout like that. You have had a sore throat recently. Tell me, how can I not shout at you? You went to get a blanket and disappeared for ages. Mr. Shimon, I was gone for 10 minutes. But if you really want to shout, at least do it in a low voice. Alright, don't mumble. Give me the blanket. The nurse covered his knees with the blanket. It was going to be a cold night. The wind moaned outside the window, and Shimon's arthritis was kicking up. Shall I get you some more ointment? Never mind, I'll hold it. Alright, suit yourself. By the way, I'm not Meyer. What? It's Tonya. Meyer was your previous nurse. Huh? That's right, yeah. I'm kind of losing track. Meyer was the one who was coughing all the time. And you're saying your memory's impaired? You remember everything perfectly. Oh, do you hear that? I think it's a car. Her young ears were much more receptive, of course, but soon Shimon heard the roar of the engine too. At this hour, and in this kind of weather, so weird. The doorbell rang. Tonya ran out to answer it, leaving Shimon to curse quietly to himself. Who the hell is that? Late at night in the raging blizzard, no sane person would have come here. Shimon wasn't expecting any visitors even on normal days, and especially today. He hoped it was a stranger, and that Meyer, that is, Tonya, would send him away now. But when the door opened, Tonya's worried face appeared. Mr. Shimon, your grandson is here. What? Laszlo? Yes, that's what he said. What should I do? Let him in? Shimon frowned. His grandson couldn't have found a worse time to visit. No, send him back. Tell him I'm not seeing anyone. That's what I said, but he really asked me to let him in. He said he barely made it here. Ugh, let him in, and take me to the hall. Tonya nodded. She wasn't as quick-witted as the previous one, but she was healthy and young. Shimon was pleased with his choice. Except that Laszlo's arrival now couldn't come at a worse time. With luck, he'll leave quickly when he feels he's not welcome here, and Shimon doesn't have to try very hard to make the reception unhospitable. The floor creaked dismally under the wheels of his wheelchair. The house moaned and slammed its shutters as if the wind were shaking it from side to side, like an old tooth. But this house had stood here long before Shimon was born, and it would stand after even the memory of him had faded. Tonya wheeled him into the living room and went to the door. In the gloom, Shimon's weak eyes could only distinguish the outlines of objects, chairs, and old gramophone, a mountain of records. These eyes are no longer good for anything. Laszlo entered, swift and agile, and a blizzard tried to slip into the house after him. Tonya closed the door with an effort. Grandfather, the years go by and you do not change at all, and the house is just as I remember it. Shimon couldn't find anything to say, so he just breathed fiercely. Wow, nothing has changed. I've always liked this house so much. Is that why you haven't come back in 5 years? Come on, you know I've been busy. I've been going back and forth, trying to get my business going. What are you doing now? Are you still lending the proceeds? Or are you just robbing poor people now? Grandpa, you don't understand how these loans work, and I haven't done it for a long time. Why did we even start on such a gloomy note? I don't really feel like talking about work, especially since I'm broke now, and it's all pretty complicated. Yes, I know how much you love money. It's a shame you're not together anymore. Simon understood perfectly why his grandson had come. He was old, but not stupid. Oh, it's freezing out there. Or here. If you don't like it here, you can sleep in the yard. Tonya, how do you stand him? Laszlo smiled at the nurse with his charming smile. It was their family trait. Shimon used to be able to smile like that too. Oh, don't say that, Mr. Laszlo. Your grandfather may grumble, but I know how kind he is. Shimon snickered. Kind? The girl is either sucking up or just naive. I'll light the fire before we all freeze to death. Where's your maid? I sent her away a long time ago. So it's just you and Tonya. Yes, damn you. Go ahead. Fire it up if you volunteered. Or am I supposed to? Shimon broke off. A decrepit old man and a young girl. A house far from civilization. A blizzard. And Laszlo is Shimon's only living relative. The one who would inherit this house if Shimon died. What if no one knows Laszlo came here? What if he already has a shovel in his car? No, this is absurd. He is getting too suspicious. Still, he should not have let Laszlo into the house. The fire crackled in the fireplace. At least you're of some use. I told you I never wanted to see you again. Aren't you glad I came? Tonya, go fetch some hot tea. The nurse nodded and went out the door. Shimon didn't want to talk about serious matters in front of her. Like I don't know why you're here. You sensed my imminent demise, huh? Grandpa, don't make this up, please. You're a long-lived man, almost 100 years old, and you're still doing great. Don't butter me up. I'm old and I'm dying. My legs are gone. The rest of my body will betray me too. And of course, you're hoping to get this house and my money. I hadn't even thought about that. I just remembered how long it's been since I visited you. So I thought I'd come, since I had a free weekend. Don't give me that crap. Shimon got angry. Does Laszlo take him for an old man out of his mind who would fall for that? The grandson hardly knows him, which isn't so surprising. They've barely spoken since Laszlo was a teenager. But he could at least try. Couldn't he have lied more cleverly? His heart began to pound. He coughed. Grandpa, it doesn't matter. You won't get anything. I've already left everything to my nurse. You what? His face. Maybe it's a good thing he came. All the nerve was worth it just to look at that stricken face. He grimaced as if his teeth had begun to ache all at once. I mean, how? Grandfather, you're kidding me now, aren't you? Shimon moved closer to the fireplace to warm his frozen fingers. I'm not kidding. The notary should be here tomorrow and will sign everything. You old fool. He shouldn't have said that. But his knees, those damn knees, they just drove him crazy, and he couldn't think about anything. He shouldn't. Laszlo had better think that the will had already been signed. So it hadn't been signed yet. Laszlo was quiet, staring into the fire. There was silence. Only the logs of the fireplace crackling and writhing in the flames. Go home. I'm tired. Where am I supposed to go in this weather? At least let me sleep here tonight. I'll leave in the morning. Laszlo was right. He wouldn't make it in this snowstorm. To throw him out in the cold would be inhuman. Laszlo may not be the nicest person, but he's still his grandson. And besides, if Laszlo really was planning something dangerous, he wouldn't simply go away. Who's going to throw him out the door if he refuses to leave? So you've decided to leave everything to Tonya. No, I have nothing against it. It's up to you. I just want to understand. I mean, it's a family home, and all your research, are you leaving it to her too? What's she gonna use it for? She'll figure it out. Are you that attached to her? Shimon didn't say anything. On the contrary, Tonya had only recently arrived and he knew very little about her. She tried to tell him something about her family, but Shimon dismissed it. The last thing he wanted was to become attached to this girl. If Grandma knew what you were doing to the family home, don't bring her into this. It's a good thing she doesn't see the way you've grown up. How did that nurse even convince you? Shimon was about to say that Tonya didn't convince him, but then she came back. Arranging cups and a teapot from an old bohemian service, she began her usual reproachful song. Mr. Shimon, there is another problem with the frame in the kitchen. The gap at the window is so wide that the snow is blown in. So what? Close the kitchen door and that's it. Let's call a handyman when the weather settles. There is a roof to fix, a drain in the sink. You feel like a landlady already, don't you? Laszlo interrupted the girl, but she wasn't confused. What do you mean? Anyone would know that the house needs renovation. I'm not made of glass, but for Mr. Shimon, draughts and leaks are very dangerous. Have you heard how he coughs? She's just so charming. Laszlo tried to appear calm, but he was so nervous that he drank the whole cup of tea in one gulp. You should have made some chamomile. Laszlo is a bit twitchy today. Shimon couldn't even taste the tea. He was thinking. Maybe he should lock himself in his bedroom, or maybe he could lock Laszlo up somewhere. He could lure him under some pretext into the storeroom. Then, all he has to do is wait for the notary to arrive. Then he would feel safe. The plan with the storeroom seemed good. But on the other hand, if Laszlo was really up to something, it would not be so difficult for him to break down the door. Nor would it be so difficult for him to break down the door to the bedroom if Shimon was hiding there. What should he do? Shimon could find the gun, but it was very unlikely he would fire it in case of danger. His fingers did not respond to him at all. Laszlo would simply rip the gun from his shaking hands. Shimon was trapped the moment he allowed his grandson into the house. He could only hope that Laszlo had nothing but resentment on his mind. Maybe he would just leave in the morning, as he had promised. In the meantime, Shimon would find the gun and sit in his bedroom. He turned and wheeled to the door. The sharp movement made something crunch in his shoulder, and a sharp pain shot through his arm. Shimon only clenched his teeth. "Grandpa, where are you going?" "I'm tired. I'm going to bed. You can sleep here, in the living room, but I want you out here before I wake up." "Mr. Shimon, let me help you." She started to hurry toward his wheelchair, but Shimon stopped her with a gesture. "I'll go myself. I want to be alone." He mustn't let her see the gun. It's better not to frighten her. On the other hand, would it be safe to leave Tonya alone with Laszlo? If he does any harm to her, splitting up is dangerous. The two of them might be able to handle Laszlo if they're lucky, but alone they don't even stand a chance. Maybe he should warn Tonya, but how to do it without alarming her? No, he'd better do it another way. He finds the gun, hides it in his bed, and then calls Tonya, saying he needs help with the wheelchair. When she comes, he tells her to lock the door. In the morning, the notary will be here, and the matter will be done. Shimon drove into the room and shut the door behind him. Already, he prepared to take the gun in his hands, but he remembered this elegant Belgian gun, how it lay in his hands, how the large letters of the marking felt under his fingers. But where this gun was now, he had no idea. Maybe it's under the bed. There is no way he can get it out of there. If he got out of the wheelchair, he wouldn't be able to get back in. Laszlo's annoyed voice came from the hall. Shimon had forgotten the walls were paper thin, as he became too accustomed to silence and solitude. Looks can be deceiving, it's true. How did you ever convince him to give the house to you? Shimon tensed and even held his breath to hear the conversation. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, come on, I'm talking about the will. How did you convince him? Or did he do it to spite me? The rage in his voice was growing, and Shimon decided there was no time to waste. He started to open the drawers of the dresser one by one, but in vain. The will? But it hasn't been written yet. Don't play dumb. To think that some nurse is the mistress of my house. Do you even know that my family has lived here for generations, and I'm their only descendant? Do you understand? A Heir. I'm not arguing, Mr. Laszlo. Laszlo wouldn't let her say a word. I used to think the old grump didn't want to leave the house. That's why he's been living so long. How did he last almost 100 years, huh? You know he has studies in geriatrics and excellent health for his age. Mr. Laszlo, I don't know why you're so nervous, but your grandfather's gone to bed. So let's tone it down a bit, Ad. Are you trying to boss me around too? The sound of breaking glass rang out, and Shimon froze. If only it had been just a broken cup. His heart was relieved when he heard Tonya's voice again. She was clearly frightened to tears. Of course not. I really don't understand what I've done to you. You're going to give up the house, do you hear me? Just try to take it away. Do you have children? I have a son. Try to take my house and I'll find you and your son wherever you are. You hear me? I don't want any house. I'm well paid and I haven't asked for anything else ever. It suddenly dawned on Shimon. The gun had not been in the bedroom for years. He had taken it to the storage room himself. I hope we are clear. Oh, you're bleeding. Let me wrap your arm. Don't touch me. Is there anything to drink in here? There was a bottle of cognac in the kitchen. Shimon had to strain his hearing to catch the sound of his grandson's retreating footsteps. He immediately left the room and found Tonya standing over the shards of vase. Mr. Shimon, your grandson, I heard. Why did he say I wanted to take your house? Tell him I didn't do anything. He's lost his mind, Tonya. You need to listen to me. Very carefully, okay? She nodded and sobbed. You go up to the storeroom. There is a tall cupboard, and there's a long box on it. Take up the gun and the ammunition. Do you understand me? The gun? She switched to whispering. Do you think your grandson can? I don't. Shimon hoped his voice sounded confident. If Tonya panics, it won't end well. But it's better if we have something to defend ourselves with. Understand? Take the gun and go to my room. But I don't know how to shoot. It's all right. I do. She nodded again and ran up the stairs. Shimon gazed out the window. What if the roads get snowed in and the notary doesn't come? What if Laszlo decides to kill the notary as well? You are awake, I see. Laszlo appeared behind him as if out of nowhere. How could I sleep? You were screaming like a cow in heat. Shimon slowly turned the wheelchair around, peering sideways up the stairs. He couldn't see a thing in the darkness. So, what did that wretch tell you? How did she talk you into giving her the house? Did you buy her? I'm so poor I have a child story. Just tell me. Shimon was silent. In fact, he had no idea that Tonya had a son until that day. Speak. I have a right to know why I was deprived of my inheritance. Shimon looked up the stairs again. Even his poor eyes could make out Tonya's figure, and that brief glance did not escape Laszlo's attention. He turned and saw it all. Tonya and the gun. You, what a scum! He rushed over to Tonya. Before she knew it, he grabbed the gun out of her hands. He gripped the nurse by the elbow and dragged her toward the center of the hall. So that's it, I see. You're trying to kill me now. Sit down. She obeyed and sank slowly to the couch. That's it. Now they're both finished. Laszlo, calm down. Or else what? You'll disinherit me? Laszlo ran his tongue over his lips. He was probably still hesitating on what to do. I could shoot you now, in the morning. The road will be so covered, no one will even know I was here. What do you think, Grandpa? Shimon thought Laszlo was right. He could really make it look like a robbery, and Shimon helped him do it himself. He did a lot of stupid things today, He got careless, all because of his damn joints. But now he knew exactly what to do. He should never have gotten Tonya into this mess. The girl didn't deserve to die. She should go back to her son. Don't touch the nurse. I'm the one who sent her after the gun. I need to talk to you alone. Take me to my room. Laszlo was quiet. Then he glared at Tonya. You stay right here. Don't you try to move. You can make it on your own, Grandpa. Come on, let's go. Laszlo shut the door. What did you want to tell me? Shimon sighed. His chest stiffened. He started coughing. Without waiting for Shimon to clear his throat, Laszlo spoke again. Was she telling the truth? You weren't going to give her anything, were you? Did you just want to piss me off? That's not the point. I'll explain. Now, in the meantime, there is a wine decanter on the window. Pour some for us. We're having a serious talk. Laszlo obeyed. He seemed very anxious to know what happened. Shimon was not going to drag this out. Your grandmother used to say that she wanted to live each day as if it were her last. It seemed right to me. But the older I got, the less sense I saw in those words. What did she mean? Should I gather my relatives around my bed every day, or maybe urinate myself? The last thing I wanted to imagine was my last day, and I did everything I could to postpone it. I've stuck my nose into every single field of medicine and more. From your age, you've succeeded, but it was not enough. I knew that sooner or later my body would refuse to serve me, and then I made a decision. I realized that I needed a heir. I really wanted to leave everything to Tonya, not necessarily to her. I changed a lot of nurses while I'd been looking for the right one. I liked this one better than the others. She's healthy and young and pretty strong. Yes, she's not very smart, but who cares? And as soon as I made up my mind, you showed up. You messed up all of my plans at once. But now, you know, I'm glad you came. Laszlo put 2 glasses on the table, poured wine. I looked at you. I saw what you have become. I saw what you can do. And I realized you are, after all, my flesh and blood. You have my eyes, my smile, even the same bad temper. And you're a man, unlike Tonya. That's important to me. Now I see I was wrong. If anyone should be my heir, it is you. You're not messing around, are you? It's not in my nature to lie, you know that. You can call the notary and cancel it. There won't be any will. Laszlo drank his wine almost in a gulp, then stared blankly at his desk. So, Heir. You didn't really believe I'd shoot you, did you? I wouldn't do that. She just made me so mad, you know. Well, for a minute there, I thought this was my last day. I could have died so absurdly after so many years of postponing death. But no, not today. He caught Laszlo's eyes, lost and groggy. It was good that he was drunk, not focused. It would be much easier this way. Will you shake my hand? It all happened in a moment, but for Shimon it lasted an eternity. The light faded, and then it came back into his eyes, much brighter. The pain in his joints was gone. His shoulders were straight. His fingers were no longer shaking, just the wine making his head spin pleasantly. He took a deep breath and exhaled noisily. Even the young lungs felt different from his old ones. An empty wheelchair stood in front of him. The body had fallen out of it and was lying on the carpet, stretched out in a final convulsion. Shimon stood up from the table, cast a fleeting glance at the mirror. He looked almost exactly the same as he did 70 years ago. A different haircut, a different jaw shape, but the same squint of brown eyes and the same soft smile. Swinging the door open, he stepped out into the hall, where Tonya was still shaking on the couch. She looked behind his back and saw the body next to the wheelchair. Mr. Shimon. The girl rushed into the room, and Shimon didn't stop her. The old man died. a heart attack apparently. The last thing he wanted to do was explain something to Tonya. It was the last day he needed a nurse. What he wanted was to get out of the house. Shimon opened the door, closed his eyes, and breathed in the frosty air. I'm going for a walk. I missed my walk so much. Oh, interesting. So he switched. So he died? And when they shook hands, he took over his body? A literal heir in terms of body. Very interesting. I enjoyed this, and I hope you guys did too. And that'll be it for the video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. And have a good day. I'll see you around. Bye bye.